Hi everybody, how's it going today? Thanks for watching another video.
I'm in the basement underneath our milking parlor here this morning. It's might sound a little bit loud on the camera, so I'll try to talk a little bit louder. That's the milk pump that just came on there on the back of the basement here. So what I'm working on today is I'm rebuilding these pulsator kits. What's on the top there on that vacuum line, all those small green boxes on the top, each milking station has one, and basically what that is doing is that's controlling the pulsating motion of the teacups upstairs, essentially milking the cow. So we have someone come on our farm at least every 3 months to test all of our milking equipment. His name is Jeff. He was here a few weeks ago and he mentioned that our pulsators were starting to get a little bit weak, and they weren't, their off time was getting too short, or shorter than where we want it to be. So that's an indication that the pulsators need to be rebuilt. So that's what I'm doing here today. I've been working on it on and off the last few days.
It's been a while since I rebuilt any of these pulsators, and it's taking a little bit longer than what I remember. There's quite a few small parts to it, as you can see. So it comes in a bag with all the wear parts that are inside this. And essentially how it works is this is in the center of it. There's two valves that are just going up and down. They're going up and down as the computer is telling it to, and we can change those settings. So there's a setting for closed, a setting for open, essentially, and those are adjustable, and they're set by our dealer based on the kind of inflations that we have.
I've talked about this down here in the past, but pretty much all the electronics are down here in the basement to keep them away from the elements. Just the start-stop button is upstairs. So pulsators are up here. This is the vacuum line. On the other side here, the vacuum line. And this is the milk line on either side. There's a milk meter in here, and then this is the shut-off. So when the cow is close to finish milking, this plunger comes down, shuts the vacuum off to the milk line, and then this is the wash line. So there's nothing going through this now. When we're washing the system, there's a solution that's circulating through this line, up through the unit upstairs, and back down through the milking lines. And then the brains for 2 units is in these 2 cabinets here. And then that milk all runs, slopes down towards the east end here. It goes in a couple receivers, and then from here there's a milk pump on either side, and from here it goes upstairs to our milk storage. So this is what it looks like to cover off. So there's 4 wires, 1 for each side, and 2 hoses. These are the pulsator hoses. These run upstairs. We have filters on here so that we're not getting any dust or debris in the pulsators themselves. Makes them last quite a bit longer. So this one is running right now. You can kind of hear it pulsing back and forth. You can almost see the hoses move a little too. It's extremely important that this equipment is maintained and up to standard. It's very important to get our cows milked out properly. If we're over milking them, or if the vacuum's too high, the pulsators are not set right, we can cause damage to their teat ends. And if the vacuum is set too low on the flip side, it could cause units to fall off, or you could have air suction from the units not staying on the teats good enough, and that can cause teat health issues as well. And of course you never want the unit to fall off while cows are milking. So it's something that we're always monitoring. Jeff knows where we need to be, where we want our settings to be, and he's tracking those throughout the year as he comes on our farm. And he'll go by and test each unit individually to make sure that each pulsator is working properly.
he'll test the vacuum and throughout the parlor to make sure that the vacuum is working properly. And he'll test high production cows versus low production cows to make sure that we want to be in the, you know, in the middle somewhere, have it set properly for the average cow on our farm. And yeah, the biggest thing is, like, when he was here a few weeks ago, he thought the pulsators were getting weak, that we get that taken care of quickly, especially going into the winter here. So that's what I'm working on today. I'll see if I can get the camera set up here to swap one out. I'm gonna finish putting this one back together here first. I got this one put back together. I thought I'd show you guys. Yesterday I had one that I put back together. I put the replacement parts in, put it back up there, and then I'm watching them as I'm going to make sure that they're working. But there was one where one side wasn't working, and I took it apart, put it back together. I didn't really see anything wrong with it. Put it back on, still wasn't working. And this morning I took it apart again, and there's gaskets on there. One of the holes was not open, so one of the holes was not punched out. So that was the reason why the one side wasn't working. So it's just kind of shows you how crucial it is that it's put back together, and that even the parts need to be made accurately. So I'm glad I saw that, but we would have figured it out eventually because the cows wouldn't have been milking out. After I do a set of 8 or so, I'll go upstairs and test them by hand with my fingers just to make sure that they are pulsating. Because if they're not pulsating up there, then the cows are not going to be milked out. So we want to make sure that after I go through and do these, I will check them, and then Jeff will come back in a week or two and check them with this testing equipment, just to make sure that we're 100% where we need to be, or if there's something else going on. I don't suspect there is. It's been, I look back in our record, it's been probably 2 years since we put, or just about 2 years since we put these pulsator kits in. So it was definitely time to replace them. So I think we should see an improvement once when Jeff comes back. We're just milking on this side, but it looks like there's some have started to come off already. This is the one I'm on. The cow's still milking right now, so we'll have to wait a couple seconds. We'll have to wait for these cows to finish here. I have, looks like 5 left, and then we should be wrapped up. Not really a good spot to put the camera. I'll try to hold it here so these hoses come off. There's one line on the back here. Slides out of there, and then we'll disconnect these wires. Brown and green go together, yellow and gray, and then this twists off. Now there's vacuum on this line. Got this wrench on here to keep this nut from turning when I put the new one on. I'll have to put the camera down for that. Got the new one turned on. Get that placed in there. Hose on the back, and then gray and yellow. Brown and green. I'll just grab my pliers and make sure that they're in all the way. Got those put on, I'll put the hoses back on. Gonna need both hands for that. It doesn't really matter which hose is on which side, or it doesn't matter. Cover back on. No, that one's done. And this is another rebuilt one. I can put this one on right away too. Back up in the parlor now. Just finished this side up. Did the last 8.
I just checked these 5 here. These are good. Have to wait for these cows to finish. But it looks like these are working like they should be. This is how it works up here. These are the 2 lines that are coming from that pulsator. They split. So each line does 2 units. And then inside here, this is silicone. So this is the milk line that goes down to the basement to where that meter is. And then the pulsator controls the air in between the liner and the shell here to open and close. So this is the last line from this group. That's why it's not controlled all the way to the end. This is the first line of the next group. A little bit steamy in here.
A couple days later, we're working on repairing some of these manure augers here. So in our south barn here, we did the north barn this morning, me and Sam. There's 4 pens of milking cows in this barn. All the manure gets scraped to this gutter, and then there's an auger in this gutter, and every 12 feet there's a bearing, and it's suspending that auger so it's not running on the floor. So there's 2 bolts on either side with a solid shaft inside of this auger. Typically what happens is if the gutter is not perfectly straight, then those bolts will start to wear a little bit over time. So we'll go through these twice a year. I kind of know which ones are the bad ones because it's always the same ones, it seems like. And we'll put new bolts in, make sure that the bearings and shafts are still good. Replace those if we need to, but we did 5 in the north barn, just bolts, and there's 3 here. And there's once we get this one done, then there's just the auger behind the milking parlor, and there's a couple spots there that we need to check. So we'll get started on this one here. So usually we do this a little bit earlier in the fall. I like to get it done before it gets cold, but we didn't get around to doing that, so we're doing it now today. It's a nice week this week, right around freezing at night, above freezing during the day. Should be good to get this done. I've learned from experience that it's better to go through these twice a year and just replace ones that are needed instead of waiting until they're broke. Because typically what happens is they break in the middle of the night on the coldest day, and then that whole gutter is full of manure and you're working with your elbows deep in manure trying to put new bolts on, or sometimes what can happen is it can shear the whole auger off, and that really isn't fun if that happens in the middle of the night. Sam just turned the auger by hand there. We've got the disconnect off so nobody can turn this auger on while we're working on it. But what we'll do is we'll cut them off. Don't even bother trying to take them off with a wrench or with the impact. We'll cut them off, punch them through with a punch, and then put new ones in. Looks like this one just needs new bolts. It's been going pretty good here this morning. Sometimes they can be a little bit challenging. Things don't line up quite like they should, but it's been going pretty good here today so far. We've got 2 bolts, nuts, washers put in here, and we double nut it so that the nuts can't come loose. And we'll tighten them by hand, make sure they're good and tight, and then we'll clean the grate up, put the grate back on. Got a supervisor with us also. How are you doing, Ian? Good?
He just went with Opa to move some bales with the telehandler, but he wanted to come back. But he'll stay sitting in the side by side because I don't want him anywhere near those augers or the grinder. And he doesn't like the loud noises anyways. Closing the window. He's just cow watching. They're watching us work. We've got this one wrapped up. There's one more. I'll have to check my notes. There's one more here before we're at the end, and then this auger will be done. And then we've got just the auger behind the parlor, like I said before. And then we should be good again until spring. We shouldn't have to do this again. We do have to replace a gearbox on the north auger. We're going to do that on Wednesday. Tony, our mechanic, is coming to help us with that. Doesn't always go the smoothest. Sometimes they have to be cut off, and then we can't salvage the gearbox. But sometimes they slide right off. Sometimes they have to be cut off. So hopefully they slide right off. But just in case, I typically have Tony or a repair guy or welder come and do that, just in case we do run into issues. So I'll be doing that on Wednesday. Hey, where's your hat?
Da.
You don't want to wear it?
Da.
It's a little chilly.
Da.
Just having a little snack after a Sunday afternoon of hard work. That was hard work, wasn't it, Ian? I think we'll end the video here. Appreciate you guys watching, and if you have any questions, post them down below, and hopefully we'll see you in the next one.